What's up, guys? Today we're playing Epic 7, and today is day 22 in our Noob to Awesome series, free to play Path to Endgame. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys are enjoying this series. I'm enjoying making it, and we still have a long way to go, but we've entered into that mid game where now we're challenging episode number 3. We're above Abyss 70, and we're marching on toward Challenger in PvP. So, a lot of good things happening. But that's going to lead us into today's episode where we're going to be talking about gear. This is a very broad subject, and we're really hoping to dive in the next couple of episodes to get you on track to making good gear. But I only have so much materials, and I'm not farming hunt yet, so we'll see how far we can go, and it all starts right now. As you're playing Epic 7, you've probably realized that you're getting a lot of rewards. The game does a fantastic job for new and free players to really start you out on the right foot and to give you a lot of the materials you need to progress. But some of these materials that you need, we're probably never going to use. When you're level 10, they might give you crafting materials for maybe level 50 gear or 60 gear, but we don't want that, right? We have our free sets are level 75. We're in episode 3, and so now we're getting level 80 gear. What we really want is level 85 gear. And to do that, we can look forward to that late and end game by taking some of these lesser materials and making them into something that we can use to progress in our story. For this, we're going to go into the Alchemist Steeple, and I'm operating at a 0, 2, 3. And I'm going to do this for quite a long time because I don't need to convert catalysts, exclusive equipment, or modification gems until you get to very, very late game. So this is going to be my build, and your Alchemist Steeple might look a little different depending on where you put points. If we go into crafting materials, this is where you're going to get recipes as you go through and beat different hunts. I haven't done Banshee, so I don't have the recipes for Banshee yet. But if we go down to something like Golem, I have done this all the way to 13, so I have them all open. Now, if we look at the crafting material, Mithril, this might generate a much lower level gear than you're currently using. So how can we take the Mithril the game gave us and make Dark Steel? Because that's going to be able to craft level 85 gear. And we're going to use the crafting feature on Dark Steel to do that. You don't have to go up in steps. You don't have to go from Mithril to whatever this word is, to whatever this word is, to Dark Steel. We can go straight from the bottom, straight to the top, and that's what we're going to do. So as you can see here, we have all of our lesser materials, and we have the material we really want. So we can take this, we can then craft it, and we can get higher level material, and you can do this 5 times a day until that lesser material is gone. And that's going to give us much more crafting materials to use to hopefully get lucky and to get something that we can really use to progress and to feel proud of when we're building heroes. The primary way that we're going to be getting gear is by crafting. As you go into your hunts and as you're able to challenge and beat those hunts, you're going to be getting crafting gear. I have a max level steel workshop, so that's what we're working with today. Let's go ahead and we're going to start with left side gear versus right side gear. That's very important. On your left side gear, you're going to have the weapon, the helmet, and the chest plate. Now this is going to have a flat main stat, and it's static. It's always going to appear in exactly the same way. For your weapon, it's going to be flat attack. For your helmet, it's flat HP. And for your chest, you're going to have flat defense. This means a couple of things. The very first thing is that you're only looking at subs on your left side gear. Because you have a static main stat that's always going to roll the same, you're really only concerned with the sub stats. As you get higher and higher level, that sub stat is going to be higher as well. Level 72 to 85 gear is all going to roll the same subs, but your main stat is going to be different. So I don't want to waste a lot of time on gear that's below level 75 because that main stat is going to be less. Also, because we are rolling a flat into the main stat, we cannot roll that into the sub stat, which automatically removes one flat from your subs and it increases your pool to be getting things like speed or, some kind of percentage that you want for that type of gear. Also, you cannot roll a defense percent or defense flat sub onto a weapon. You also cannot roll an attack percent or an attack sub onto your chest plate. That means that even further reduces the pool that's available for your substats to roll into. Onto your right side gear, we have the necklace. Now, necklace can roll anything onto your percents or onto your flat. That means that it can roll every one of your main stats like HP, defense, and attack. In addition, it can also roll into crit chance and it can roll into your critical damage. When we look at the rings, this can roll again into all of your percent and onto your flat HP defense attack, but then in additional, it can roll into effectiveness and effect resist, but it cannot roll into critical chance and it cannot roll into the crit damage that the neck can. And again, we're talking about main stats, not your substats. And then onto your boots, this one can roll a speed main stat. It can also roll attack, defense, and HP main stats, both percentage and subs, but it cannot roll those percents that are exclusive to the necklace and onto your ring. And now we get to the point that you've all been waiting for. We're going to be rolling some gear and seeing how it turns out. Now, I'm going to be rolling for the left side gear primarily because this is going to have the biggest impact. You have the best chance to get a decent amount of stats versus the right side gear, which can kind of roll into anything. So I always try to roll the left side gear more. And today we are going to be rolling onto Wyvern. So let's see how that goes. And we're going to start with some warm-up pieces to craft here. Okay, right out the gate, we get an epic piece, and this is kind of all over the place, right? What we have is attack and crit, which is good for an attacking type hero. We also see that we have effect resist and we have effectiveness, but we are lacking that bridge. We're lacking the connection to the attacking. Now you can mod out one of them. So if we were to roll this type of gear, we would want it to go into crit chance, into attack, and then possibly effectiveness as well. And then onto the effect resist, we would mod this out into something like a speed or a crit damage. And then now we have an attack based sword. So let's go ahead. We're going to roll this piece and see how it goes. This might also give us an opportunity to talk about when to abandon a piece when it is not going to roll the way we want. So the very first thing is equipment score. I want to start with at least a 29 onto any kind of epic piece of gear, and we have that here. I also typically do use this white gear to start my rolls, and that's because if I want to abandon this piece, I don't want to sink a lot of gold or a lot of materials into it, so I'll often use these swords and things. Let's go ahead and we're going to roll it to a +6. So right now we have a 3 into crit chance, which is exactly what we wanted to pull down some crit chance, to pull down some attack as well. Okay, and then we get kind of a low roll into effectiveness. Well, I mean, the highest roll you can get is a 7, and it's about mid roll into effectiveness. I guess the highest roll you can get is an 8. So on the lower side. So what we have now is we're going to want to avoid effect resist, mod that into something else, and hope that it rolls quite a lot into attack and crit chance from this point on. Going into effectiveness does help because it's a hit chance piece of gear, which will give you more effectiveness whoever you put this on. And we have to think that this is going to be someone who wants to debuff, right? Someone like Mui. Someone even maybe like Sigret, or someone like Specialty Change Carmen Rose or Helga. So not a bad piece overall, as long as we can get some decent rolls. So what are we looking at for the gear score? Well, when we get to a +6, I'm looking for about a 47, and so we're right on target there as long as we want to keep going. And since we're pretty new in the game, I would say that that is a good thing to do because we do need to have gear. Okay, and so we get a +6 into effect resist. At this point, you would then abandon this piece because it has rolled into something that you are trying to avoid, right? If we want to mod this piece now and we mod this effect resist, we're only going to get like a 2 to 4 speed. And so it's not going to be very good. The equipment score is now going to drop. If we mod out the effectiveness, again, it's going to drop. So this is not something we necessarily want to continue. Best case scenario, I think, is you mod the effectiveness and you would go into like a 7 to 9 crit damage. You'll lose 2 points, but it could still be salvageable if you wanted to keep going. For me, I don't think this is a piece that I'm going to continue, so we're just going to go ahead and abandon it. Now, what I would want to do once I get past the +3 range, again, we're going to start to extract, and that's going to give us lots of cores that we can then use to either make more gear through the equipment conversion, or we can utilize to come in and get charms from the alchemist steeple. And let's see here, what do we want to do? Let's go and we'll just do a +10. So when we're doing a +10, we're going to click arrange, and anything that is blue or rare gear, I'm going to get rid of. Also, because I'm looking forward to end game, if we have heroic gear that is a flat stat, then I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that automatically as well. Next, if we have gear that has rolled a low equipment score, then we're going to get rid of that. So this is a 15, very, very low. What I want is at least a 23. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and start cycling through these. Now on this piece of gear, we see speed and we get a 3, and that's a mid roll. We get a +5 and a crit chance, which is a max roll, but we have a max roll into effect resist. So even though it meets the equipment score, this is not a combination that I like to have. What I want onto my gear is I want to have a damaging main stat, or I want to have something that will allow a Soul Weaver to use this. So that would mean speed, health, effect, resist, speed, health, effect, effectiveness, speed, crit chance, crit damage, or attack. These are some of the combinations that I would want to see. We have to imagine that because we can't see this fourth stat, that it's going to be like flat. So let's say this comes in as flat attack, right? Well, now we have a piece of gear that really doesn't make sense for most heroes, especially if it rolls into effect resist. So not something that I'm going to want to take a chance on. Now we're left with these epic pieces of gear. So again, we want to have at least a 29, and we see here a 25. This one is a 31, which is pretty good. And then this one here is a 30, which is also pretty good. If we're looking at the stat combinations, I want 3 things that make sense together. So we see crit chance and attack, which is good, effectiveness, which is also good, and health, which is also good. If it rolls into health, crit chance, effectiveness, then we can mod out this attack for speed or crit damage, depending on who we want to use it on. If it rolls into attack, crit health, avoids effectiveness, then we can choose to leave it because it's a pretty good roll, or we can possibly mod this out as well, and now it's good on a bruiser piece. So we're going to lock that one down. Now when we get into a pretty good gear score, we have health and crit chance, effect resist, those are good together onto bruiser pieces, and effectiveness. If I roll into this type of piece, I want it to avoid either effect resist or I want it to avoid effectiveness and roll into the other 3. Then you can mod one out into, again, crit damage, or you can even mod it out into speed. I think it's a good piece. And this last one here looks pretty similar. Now, these are all the good substats that we might want onto a hero who is meant to do damage and also not get debuffed. So let's say something like Arya, right? Arya wants to counterattack. She wants to hit hard. She needs to be a bruiser, and we don't want her to get debuffed. The problem with this thing is that it has a low equipment score, but it's not too bad. Let's go ahead. We're going to start with that one. Let's roll some gear. Let's go ahead and start with some of these white pieces and see how it rolls. Now, what I would want is I would want to see a pretty high roll, and we get a max roll there, 36 at a +3. I want to see about a 38, and I want to see a 47 at +6. So very, very good. If we were to roll this again on something like an Arya, that would be pretty nice. If we continue to get max rolls, something like a shoe would also be very good. Because we have a crit chance set, then now we can hopefully try and achieve that 100% crit chance that we're aiming for. Okay, and now we see basically a min roll into effect resist. We want to get a 47 into the gear score, and we're at a 43, so not amazing. If I were to mod this into something else, like so let's say I were to mod this into speed, then I would get like like maybe a 3 or a 4. I think the range is 3 to 5, but I always consider it to be mid, right? So if the range is 3 to 5, then I would consider it to be like a 4. So not amazing. You lost a whole roll onto gear that already is kind of low to begin with. So not ideal here. Let's go ahead and we're going to go into the next one. Now onto this one as well. Pretty good gear score. And what we want to see is we want to see it roll decently into our target. So we get that +6, and that's an okay roll. Let's use a charm here. +5 into health. We want at least a 47, and we get it. If we completely avoid the effectiveness, then maybe we can get some pretty decent rolls, and we can utilize this onto a pretty decent hero. Let's keep going. Some of this gear in Endgame, I might throw away, but because we're just starting out, because we do need gear, then this is something that I actively pursue, even though it might be sort of below the target that you want. Now, I think the first roll we had was a 5. We get a 7 here, and that's very good. So on a +9, we would want to have at least a 56, and we get a 57. So this is a good example of how gear can sort of recover, right? It might not roll exactly how you want, but the next roll might be a max level roll, and now we have a pretty good piece of gear. Let's take this to +12. It's right on track where we want to be. And we're utilizing a ton, just a ton of gold to do this. So this is why people ask me, why do you post videos on how to make gold? This is the reason right here, 100%. When you're rolling, it takes a ton of gold. Okay, 3 crit chance, not amazing. It's an average roll, but it's okay. So now we have a 66, which is on target for end game at +12. We want to have a 66. Now, what we want to see is we want to see, I think, another roll into, well, it could be anything as long as it's high roll, right? Crit chance, attack, health, I think all those are good. So let's go ahead and pull some down. As you can see, one big change from the new system versus the old system is that the main stat counts toward the gear score. And in the past, we weren't looking at that main stat at all. So this is something that people have to get used to, I think, a little bit better, is looking at that main stat as counting as towards your equipment score. Okay, so now this is actually a pretty good piece of gear. Very nice. What I want is at least an 80 at plus 15, and this is an 81. That makes this an end game piece on gear score substat wise. If we go to reforge this piece of gear, we can see very, very good here. We have 32 into health. We have some attack and crit chance and effectiveness. So now this is going to be useful onto quite a lot of heroes. Ideally, maybe I would want it to have crit damage instead of attack. Looking back, right? Maybe I would have wanted to have something else, maybe effect resist here instead of effectiveness, but still very, very solid piece. You can develop this into a lot of different heroes. And don't forget that the attack stat also works onto bruiser heroes. So something like a shoe, it says damage based on HP, but if you add in attack, every hero gets some damage based on the attack stat. So this is not wasted. This is not something I would modify into crit damage because she will get a bonus from that even though she's an HP based hero. The substats are still going to be unknown, but we can craft an epic piece of gear. Now, the best piece of gear to craft with your epic is going to be the left side gear. Let's go ahead and we're going to pull down, how about a helmet? First, you should select it. That would be the best thing. Then we're going to be able to craft this helmet and it allows you to select. So let's go ahead and see what it gives us. We're going with the speed, guaranteed epic. Okay, very nice. So what we see is it's okay in equipment score. We want at least a 29, we get a 30. Max roll into effectiveness, max roll into speed, and then we're going to see a little bit of low rolls here in health. Now I consider speed to be a max roll at 4. I do realize that 5 is the maximum you can get in a lot of gear, but I've only seen it a handful of times, so we're just not going to consider that. Now let's go ahead and we're going to roll it. This is the first piece of gear that we've rolled. So we started with a 30, we wanted at least 29, and what we want is a 7 every single time. So I want to go to a 38 at plus 3, a 47 at plus 6, 56 at plus 9, 66 at plus 12, and I want at least an 80 at plus 15. That's going to allow us now to reforge that gear to hit our target goal of 90 or higher. Closer to 100 is better. We do get that 3 roll into speed, which is very good. Of course, we're going to roll 20 speed right now. That's feasible, right? 20 speed? Okay, 10 speed. When you reforge, you get a +1 to each one of these speed rolls. That makes it a +12, and that's pretty good. What we would ideally want from this point is we want to get maybe a max roll into health, maybe even some more speed. If we roll into one or the other, I'd like to see effectiveness or effect resist, but not both. Let's go ahead. We're going to pull down some charms here. To be the most efficient, you will often see me roll them one at a time, and that's because it's going to allow me to save the most gold possible if I want to now get rid of this piece of gear. But obviously, wow, triple roll, that makes it a +17 onto the helmet. This is why people speed check that gear. If you get, another roll, if you get a quad or a penta roll into speed, that's going to be very good, and you can use it on a lot of different heroes. At this level right here, I'm most likely going to keep it no matter what, because one, I don't have any speed gear, but two, it's really going to help in the long run. So let's go ahead. We're going to keep rolling it. Am I going to get a quad roll into speed on camera? That would be kind of amazing. I almost forgive Smilegate for giving me such bad luck into into my summons. Let's just do one, just so we can see it. What's gonna happen? Oh my goodness! We only get a +2, but that still puts us at a 20. What in the world just happened? We are gonna roll this. We're gonna roll it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna get some. I only have one. I'm gonna go ahead and get some of these charms here. I guess that's all I have. That's okay. Let's go back to our helmet. +12 helmet. What happened? I'm gonna be out of charms after this. Sometimes what I would do is I would just sit on this for a minute until I got some more equipment or charms to level it up. But just for you guys, we are going to keep going. Let's go. No way. You gotta be joking, kidding me. Oh, that is the craziest thing. So I've never penta rolled speed before. Never. Not once. Not on any piece of gear have I penta rolled speed. That is crazy. Crazy. If somehow I was able to reforge this piece of gear, you're looking at a 23 speed helmet. Ridiculous. 25? Is 25 the highest? I don't know. How high does speed go? I want to say 25. Correct me if I'm wrong. But this is wild. Oh my goodness. Hopefully we have some more of that luck going forward, right? As you're getting through mid-game and you're getting more and more crafting materials, we're able to make this gear that we can really use, but that's not enough. It will be enough to take us into late game, but then how do we get to that end game? How do we become competitive? You have to be able to reforge your gear, and the primary place that you're going to reforge it is in expeditions. When we go into these expeditions, even at level 1, you're going to get quite a lot of materials. You can see I only did 30,000 here, but now we're able to be getting these modification gems, and we're able to get that reforged material. In our expedition depot, there's a ton of rewards here that we need. We need to be able to pull down these manifestation stones to reforge our converted equipment. We're getting conversion stuff. We're getting Molagora. We're also getting the different essences that we need to be able to reforge. It's not enough just to have level 85 gear anymore. You must be able to take your quality gear to level 90. Every piece that you do is going to give you much more of that score that you need. And so very, very important here. If we come in and we click receive,
Visera and Terran are both sent to
very nice. I'm not all the way done yet, but let's go back to that helmet, click on reforge, and you can see now that we're going to be getting a lot of benefit. This piece is an 80. When I reforge it, my very first reforged piece, 92. So we went up 12 points. Not only is this a speed piece, which is amazing, uh, one of my highest pieces ever, probably, but look at that equipment score just go up, and it's really, really fantastic. You need to be able to do these things. And that really brings us into modification as well. You know, when you click on modify, you can take one of these stats, maybe it doesn't make any sense, and turn it into something else, like defense, you know, or turn it into crit chance. This is a what I would consider to be a lower roll. Sure, it could be a 4, but a 5 is not an 8. And so we would want to look into possibly reforging this into something that we can use for one of our heroes. This might be perfect on a very fast hero, like a Peyra or a Conqueror Lilius or an Ahmed. but does it really make sense for that hero? Maybe you want to put this on an Angel of Light to make her just blazingly fast. Well, she would be more of a defense hero, so you might want to modify one of these low stats into defense percent, which is going to then make that hero much better. In some cases, it's also going to improve your equipment score because this is a 5 and I can roll this into like maybe a 7 to 9, that now I can increase this equipment score by incorporating a modification gem. We don't have any yet, so I guess we don't have to worry about it, but keep it in mind as you're going. We want to have 3 substats that make sense, and then a fourth one that we can possibly modify if it doesn't roll into that stat, and then we can utilize that on one of our heroes that we're building. I had a lot of fun today going in and crafting gear. We got super lucky on some of our pieces, and we're getting ready now to move through this mid game and into late game. It's going to be a lot of fun. I realize that leveling up gear can be very complicated and there's a lot of things going on. So we're going to make more videos as we go through and how you can utilize all of that gear to then make some really great heroes that are going to help you to either be competitive or to just clear a lot of the game and have fun doing what you want to do. Keep in mind as well that I'm going to have some clips at the end of this video that are going to help you to organize your gear by really narrowing down the gear score and the things that I'm looking for as we're rolling, and then that hopefully you can incorporate into your game to help you progress. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Give me a like so other people just like you can find it as well. Until next time, happy hunting and good luck with your battles.